everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is DK Jonah, and you're welcome to another episode of the Introvert's Guide to Content Creation. Now, in today's episode, we are speaking with someone that is in the media industry. So we're looking at someone that is an introvert but works with people. So we're going to be asking her a few questions on how she got into the media. And my guest today is Lola Ogunbadejo, or Lola Ebony. And when you see her, you understand why they call her Lola Ebony. She is dark and beautiful. She is an award-winning TV presenter and she won the Women4Africa Awards in 2012. She's a producer, a voiceover artist, a writer. She has a flourishing career that started in OHTV, one of the biggest BME television channels in Europe. It was here that the film and television studies graduate began co-hosting the exciting African entertainment show Afrika Rising, which aired on OHTV. Lola has written so many publications, such as Together Magazine and TV script for major productions and notable events. Some of her writing credits include Nollywood film Dance Away, the award-winning cooking show Niger Bites. I used to watch Niger Bites. I can't remember her name. But Lola was a writer on it, and the biggest gospel talent show in Europe, Time to Shine. I watched Time to Shine also, so it's good to know that I know someone that's in the media that has worked in all these places. But she's very passionate about mindfulness and self-development as part of her mandate to encourage and enlighten individuals about self-worth and self-love. Lola is launching a YouTube series that I'm really excited about. I will get to talk about it more with her. But without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest, Lola Ogunbadejo. Hi, Lola.
Hi, DK. How you doing?
Nice to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm feeling great considering everything that's happening around the world.
I know.
I'm doing okay.
I
know, right?
The industry has been affected more than any other industry by this pandemic. But before we talk about media and introversion, I've done a little introduction and just read up a couple of things about you, but I would love you to tell us a bit more about yourself.
Okay. Well, hi guys, and first of all, thank you very much, DK, for inviting me on your platform. So yeah, just exactly as you said, I have worked in the industry for about 10 years now. As soon as I left university, I studied film and television studies with the dream to be a scriptwriter, and somehow I fell into presenting, and that's how my career really took off. I started presenting, like you rightly said, for a TV channel called OHTV, and from there I actually started off as a runner, so I was the one doing the errands, and then went on to and eventually learned how to produce and perfected my script writing craft as well. So I wrote for a lot of TV programs, wrote a lot of treatments for TV programs, essentially getting into the role of becoming a content creator. And at the moment, so yeah, I jumped into presenting, which was great. Had my own show, which was fantastic. Traveled around Nigeria, traveled to America as well. Did a lot of stuff in London, which really gave me a great foundation, my foot in the door in the media industry. And then eventually moved to Nigeria, and I'm working as a content producer now. So I'm devising shows, writing shows, and just making sure that they come to life and that they are enjoyed by Africans. So yes, that's what I'm doing at the moment.
That's amazing. So when you said there's a distinction between media for Africans and media for Europeans, is there a distinction?
I mean, okay, for someone that was born and raised in the diaspora, I would say my humor is very different. Sometimes when I'm watching comedy, like in Nigeria, for example, if I use comedy as an example, when I'm watching comedy, I'm really used to sort of dry, witty comedy.
Yes.
But Nigeria, more so into like slapstick, very exaggerated comedy, which I also love. So definitely, I feel like since I've come here, transition in terms of what I like to actually create stuff that they would like here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a fruitful journey. It's been really good so far.
I like that. And don't people say this is amazing, an introvert working in the media industry, presenting and doing all these things? Is it really overwhelming, or how will you describe your work as an introvert in the media industry?
That's a fantastic question. I mean, when I first started in the media, first of all, I always knew I wanted to work in the media. But I don't think I realized how much it would take from me as an introvert. I understood that I would have to be among people for probably long periods of time, that I'll have long working hours, that it would require me to do this and that. But I don't think I realized how much it would take a toll on me, sort of physically and mentally.
Okay.
For example, I have friends who love being, you know, center of attention or love being amongst people, which is cool. I do like socializing and the likes. And socializing, I believe, is a huge part of what I do
Mm-hmm.
as my career. But then I used to sometimes find myself being really tired when I got home. And I was wondering, why am I so tired? And I later realized it's because I find these social interactions, as much as I love the people,
Yes.
I find the social interactions at times very, very tiring. Like I have to put my all into it to really show that I'm interested, to really prove to them that I'm listening, because naturally I'm a very cool, calm, and collected person. And I've seen that on some occasions that some people misinterpret that and they think, oh, she's not interested, she's being rude, she's being bougie. So I have to, I feel personally, do times two to let people know that actually I am being attentive to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested in what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I do want to be around you. But if you tell me, Lola, would you like to go to like a really high profile event, or would you prefer to stay at home? Most times it would be I prefer to stay at home. So my journey in the industry has been, it's been a bit up and down actually, because I've been torn as to whether it was the right industry for me, just simply because of the type of person I am.
Okay. And what was it like growing up for you as a child? Have you always been cool, calm, and reserved as a child?
Yeah, I think I've always been shy. Um, there's a word I used to say to myself. I am a situational extrovert. In certain situations, certain places, I can be really loud. Like if I'm really comfortable with
Yeah,
particular people or
of course.
with friends and the like, I'm a different person. But when I'm not, more often I am very, very quiet,
Okay.
very, very reserved, shy. It can be a bit awkward. And so growing up, I felt like times I was told, actually, because I used to go to a lot of courses to kind of help with
Okay.
dealing place. I remember being in, I won a place on this course, kind of like I think what was it called, Windsor Fellowship. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but it's run by the Prince of Wales, and it's to help BME people to kind of gain skills in the workplace and the likes. So I remember I gained a place on that. And what it was throughout my university, for I think once every 3 months, they take you on a retreat to kind of help you, to prepare you for the workplace, essentially. And I remember one time we had a discussion and they were saying, you can't market shyness. Because I used to be
I like that. You can't
a lot of
market
group,
shyness.
can't market shyness. We used to do a lot of group work, and you had your really loud people, really confident people, and then you had like the few of us that were quite shy and quite
Mm.
little, the groups where we don't really talk that much, but when we do talk, we contribute a lot. And so from that moment, I kind of realized that, wow, I really need to work on this,
No.
because I'm leaving education now and I'm going into the real world, so to speak. And some people might not have the energy or the time to deal with the type of person I am, especially in the media where they expect everybody to be like da, 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 da. So I had to learn how to deal with that.
Awesome. I like that because I like the fact that you were intentional about it and then you were getting these trainings that helped you. But did you always want to work in the media as a child? As that always?
Yes, yes,
Oh, really? And what really,
yes, yes.
inspired
So
you to work in the media? What inspired you to work in the media?
funny story, when I was in year six, I think when I was about 10, my handwriting was really bad, actually, to the point where I was about to go to secondary school, and my
Yes.
my primary school teacher was like, I need you to stay in during lunchtime to work on your handwriting because it was illegible. She didn't mean it in the mean way, but she kind of basically said that my writing is that of like a 5-year-old,
Okay.
and if I'm going to secondary school, she wants me to improve. And I used to stay indoors and write short stories,
Okay.
and that kind of ignited my desire. I was just like, oh yeah, I want this to be on TV. I want this short story to be on TV. I want, like, my imagination just started growing wild, and from there, I think that was where the seed was planted to be a script writer. And then I remember when I went to secondary school, I went to a convention and they had an ITV, no, an ITN, I think, or ITV or ITN news desk, and you had the opportunity to go behind the news desk, read the teleprompter, and pretend that you were a news reporter.
Okay.
And I did it. Gave me the CD, and I watched it, and I said, you know what? I have to be in the media some way, shape, or form. And that was like when I was about, yeah, 12, 13. So from then, I kind of knew that I want to be in media.
Do you still have that CD?
Somewhere in my house, London. Yeah,
Save
I do.
it, save it, save it. We have Toye and Madu joining us from Nigeria. Hello, Madu. Hello, Toye. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is Lola Ogunbadejo, and we're going to be speaking about introversion in the media, how introverts can thrive even if they're working in the media industry. Lola has told us a bit about her background, how she had to be intentional about getting her voice heard, and she was told that shyness is not marketable. So I just have another question for you, Lola. What is the best way to describe an introvert? Because most of the times we get the negative connotations of introversion. What is the best way, in your opinion, that introverts should be defined?
Wow, no, I love that question because when people ask me that, I try to say, okay, you've got your textbook version, and then I've got my own version. And I was watching a video about what other people think of introverts the other day, and they just think that they're socially awkward people,
Hmm?
or people who find it hard to just want to go out, or people who just are not really that sociable.
Yes.
I find that we place our energy in different. We use our energy in different ways. So some people use their energy to socialize, and I use my energy to be creative in my mind and to talk when I feel like talking, to socialize when I feel like talking. I feel like I have the desire to have a greater reign of my socialization, more so to speak. I feel like I'm also very reserved. I can be a bit quiet. I can be. I enjoy my own company.
It's amazing.
I'm okay with me being by myself. I have friends who are on the complete opposite spectrum of me. Friends who are almost having a meltdown due to this pandemic, due to the lockdown. They just couldn't understand why they had to stay at home. And I genuinely had friends who were just going crazy. I understand that the lockdown has different effects on different people. Even at one point, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is a bit much. But for me, most of the time, I was completely fine with it. And I feel that is a way to kind of describe who an introvert is. Someone who is very aware of how they use up their energy to the point where it's subconscious, but they might not do things that everybody expects them to,
Mhm.
in terms of like being out there or being loud. I think introverts are naturally sort of very solemn, quiet people, but they can be that excited and lovable and interesting person when they're around people that they love. They're just very selective of where they put their energy. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel I am anyway.
I
Subconsciously.
Yes, I agree because I'm the same way. I believe that we just express ourselves in different ways and we've accepted who we are. But it took us, some of us, a long time to accept who we are as introverts because we live in an extroverted world. The world is loud and proud and everyone wants us to fit in. Well, we were just born to be who we are. So, at what point in your life did you finally embrace who you are as an introvert?
Um, I think when I first started my career,
Huh?
I was wondering why I found it difficult I was finding it really difficult because I had friends who were extroverts, like we were all starting at the same time, and they found it very easy to go to these events and to like basically talk to loads of people and just be friends. And industry is about your network. It's about who you know more so.
Yes.
There's a lot of nepotism going on. Work for your good, cannot work for your good. Most times people hope it works for your good. So you have to be able to talk. You have to be able to keep in contact with people. You have to be able to maintain relationships. And essentially you have to be seen. You have to go out. It's very important. And I found it very challenging at the beginning because I was wondering why I didn't really enjoy them as much as my peers, or why I didn't feel compelled to do these things as much as my peers. But it was having an effect on my career, so to speak, because you know, with in the media, there's this notion that you definitely have to stay relevant, so you have to be seen and you have to be heard, you have to be noticed. And how can you do all those things if you're hardly out there? But then what I realized is that you have to let your work speak for itself. Naturally, not everybody's going to be the same. It was really hard for me to accept, though, because I did for the longest time think that I thought that maybe this career wasn't for me. Maybe I've got into the wrong career. Maybe I am not going to last long in the media, because you have to be, like you said, we live in an extroverted world.
Yes.
You have to be this person. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So I had this complex for a very, very, very long time. And I think it was only until like the past couple of years that I began to just see myself as who I am, like you rightly said, that, okay, I am in the media. Thank God I've been in the media for over 10 years. I must be doing something right. I have to be happy in my skin. I have to accept who I am. I cannot, if I want to be authentic to my followers or to the people who I influence, I have to actually accept who I am.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. It's not all about popularity, it's about impact. That's what I had to see. That there are some people out there who are introverts just like me, and who probably feel the pressure to be something that they're not. And I have to show them that it's okay to be like this and to work in the media. It's not impossible. You can do what you can to, you know, increase your confidence and to work on your professional and personal development. But in terms of completely changing who you are to fit into this field of work, I don't believe you have to do that.
That's awesome, because I agree with you. And there's something about the media that I love, the opportunity to tell your story on your own terms with social media right now. It has given us as introverts a platform where we can actually express ourselves the way we want to, and we have our own audience listening to us. Nobody else is going, the publicist is not telling your story anymore. You're telling your own story.
Yeah.
So in the past 10 years, what has been the greatest transition in the media in your opinion?
Wow. There's been so many milestones. I think one of my biggest highlights was I'm a woman of faith. My faith is very important to me. It plays a key role in everything that I do, from the way that I talk to the way that I dress to the way that I think. My faith plays a key role. And so I always knew that entering into the media, there was somehow there was going to be a time when I would eventually get into sort of like the gospel aspect of media.
Yes.
And time came when I had the opportunity to interview Pastor Idibia, the General Overseer of Idibia Church of God. And that, to me, was one of my biggest milestones. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have interviewed a lot of amazing people. I remember I've interviewed Davido, I've interviewed Wizkid briefly, Tiwa Savage, Genevieve Nnaji, Omotola, Jamaica. I've interviewed quite a number of sort of high-profile African celebrities.
Yes.
But when I interviewed Pastor Idibia, that really hit me. And also when I had my own show. So at the moment, I am developing my own YouTube series, but there was a point when I had my own show, which was a fantastic experience, and I'm gonna bring it back in a way that's bigger and better, in a different way. But having that show helped me to understand that I have what it takes to be a presenter. I have what it takes to engage an audience. I am good at talking. I'm confident in front of the camera. That was a real confidence boost. So more so for it wasn't really at that point about my career, but that was about my own personal development. Because if anybody told me that, Lola, you're going to have a show one day and you're going to interview all these celebrities and you're going to travel the world, I would have told them how, especially due to how shy and reserved I was as a young person. So that was a remarkable moment for me, and there's been a lot of ups and downs within the career, DK, to the point where you can just say, oh, one might have just said, okay, let's just give up and forget about it. But I really believe that God has brought me on this particular journey, because it's been it hasn't been straightforward. It's been like, but he brought me on this particular journey to really build myself up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I would say my career so far has been more so a spiritual journey than anything else.
That's amazing.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes sense, because I think as Christians, we very few Christians want to play an active role in the media. So it's about realizing that the media shapes the way the world is viewed. So the next generation, the way they view the world is going to be shaped by the media. So what's your encouragement for people that are contemplating coming into the media, but like, okay, I may have to compromise my faith? What's your advice for them?
I think, first of all, definitely go and pick up the book by Devon Franklin called The Hollywood Commandments. It's a fascinating book. Yeah, and it basically, that book tackles this very thing, because when I first started out in the industry as well, I was quite active in my church. I would preach sometimes on a Sunday, and then people will say to you, oh, so how do you feel when people come up to you and they say, oh, you're working here, but you're in church? So there's that conflict. Yeah. I do believe that you have to know who you are before you enter the industry, because it can radically change. If you are somebody who feels you have to get to the top no matter what, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, regardless, you're willing to compromise, you're willing to do this, I would say that you, first of all, need to get that type of mentality out of your head, because it's not worth it. There's people who have come into this industry who have become severely depressed, clinically depressed, who have actually even committed suicide because of this notion of, I have to be this particular way. I have to have people to like me. I have to have people to do this for me. I have to be noticed. I have to be relevant. And it's really, I can't express how important it is to know your identity in Christ. I can admit, when I first came into the industry, I found it really difficult. I was trying to fit into a particular place which wasn't designed for me. I could never fit in that because that wasn't my mold. But yet I had ideology that if I want to be successful, I got to do this and I've got to do that. And over time, success looked different to me. Relevancy looked different to me.
Okay.
The need to be famous or the need to be popular looked different to me. But that's my journey. And I feel like as Christians, we definitely need to be in the media. I know a lot of people are scared because they think, oh, it can corrupt you in this. But the Bible says we're light of the world. And also it's necessary for us to be aware of what's going on so that we know how to tackle certain things and so that we can have an impact and influence in certain decisions being made. Because as you rightly said, the media is the most powerful medium. The media can determine how you think and how you live your life. Yeah. From adverts to documentaries to the news broadcasts, if people are constantly being fed whatever is being shown on TV. And so it's very, very important that we have people behind the scenes who are spiritually minded and who are able to make very good decisions when it comes to media content, creating content as well. So I think basically read that book, Devon Franklin, The Hollywood Commandments. It will really tackle all those issues.
Okay,
it's a really good book.
Yeah, that book talks about Devon Franklin had a book like that. So I will definitely look out for it, because I'm very passionate about using the media to influence people positively. Because I believe that the content we put out there will shape the world. Now let's talk about the content you put out there, the positive content you put out there. Why did you place emphasis on creating positive content out there?
Um, I happen to know, from my own personal journey, I think there were times in my life where it was quite dark, it was quite meek. I think even being an introvert or just being a very reserved person, keeping things to myself, there was a lot of things I dealt with mentally that I didn't often share, or I didn't feel that other people would understand. And it did have a toll on me emotionally, because used to think all kinds of stuff, that I wasn't adequate enough, that I wasn't beautiful enough, that I wasn't intelligent. And imagine you're in a place where you can't verbalize it, and these are thoughts that keep coming up in your head. And how I used to combat it was, I used to be on my phone, and I used to sort of imagine that someone else was telling me how they felt. So I was feeling negative, but I would imagine that someone else was feeling negative, and they were coming to me for advice. And I would say to myself, okay, well, what would you advise this person if they came and tell you they have these thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to write down things like affirmations. I used to write down little stories. I used to create little videos that I wouldn't post, but I'll just keep on my phone to reference. I used to do just I think recently that I went through my notes on my iPhone, and I could see like this whole list of affirmations and notes that I used to write to myself. And I said, well, someone needs to hear this. Yeah. Someone needs to hear this. I actually have a YouTube page called Someone Needs to Hear This. I mean, not a YouTube page, an
Instagram page.
Instagram page, yeah. Someone Needs to Hear This, where I literally from time to time write down little affirmations where people, and hopefully, the Holy Spirit would minister to whoever needs to hear it, essentially. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I believe this is what I'm meant to do. I believe I'm meant to encourage, inspire, and help. And if there are people out there who feel like me, I definitely have to do something about that, because I wouldn't want anyone to experience what I was experiencing during that time. So that's why I decided to be positive and motivated.
Awesome. And you've talked enough about personal development. In moments of self-doubt, how do you encourage yourself?
I have to express good. So when I feel doubtful, like, oh, can you do this? Oh, you're not good enough. I just have to look back on my journey. When the Bible says, count your blessings, name them one by one. Like, that's honestly the way that I learned to deal with doubt. That, okay, well, Lola, how did you get this far if you really think you're that crap? How did you get to this point in your career, this stage in your life, if you were as bad as your thoughts are telling you that you are? It's not about being proud, or, blowing your own trumpet, but it's just reminding you that there's no way you could have got to where you are without something. You have something. There is something about you, something that helped you to get to that point, to get to this point. And you can't afford to forget that, because I think doubt comes in when you sometimes subconsciously forget or allow fear to overtake the current blessings. You allow fear to overshadow the amazing journey that you've had. Mm-hmm. And I used to do that a lot, and now I just make sure that I remind myself of where I've come from, and that kind of gets rid of the fear and the doubt, so to speak.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You're still listening to the Introvert's Guide to Content Creation. My guest is an introvert in the media industry, and she has worked in the media industry for over 10 years globally. And hello BC, hello Nene, Nina and BC are saying hello Lola. They want to say hello to you.
Hey.
If you have any questions or any contributions about the topics we're discussing, please feel free to share. For example, a good question would be, in moments of adversity and self-doubt, how do you build yourself up? If you could share your own tips, that would be great, so that we can also learn from you. Because this platform was created for all of us to learn together and grow together. It's not just for the guests, to just share their own stories, but see ways we can all impact each other and influence each other positively. And talking about influencing each other positively, why are you so passionate about personal development? I know you're passionate about it, but I've always wondered, what's pushing Lola to be so passionate about personal development?
I think a lot of people are sitting on gold mines. And I think refinement is a word that I love, because I feel like a lot of people are sort of diamonds in the rough. And what they need, they know it, is to just be smoothed out. It's just to be pushed in the right direction. And most times people are expecting other people to just notice them and just do it, when really we have to actually know it ourselves. And I've noticed that you can tell someone to their blue in the face, you're fantastic, you're amazing, you're this, you can scream affirmations at them and encourage them. But if they don't believe it, if they don't know it themselves, it's going to be really difficult for them to keep on the momentum of being good. And so I've said, well, it's got to start from the inside, really. The person has to know who they are. It's all about identity. And I remember I was speaking to my friend. I said that a lot of people during the pandemic are going to go and copy a lot of people. Oh, I need to do this course, I need to do that. They're going to basically blow their minds out with masterclasses and courses and this and that, because they feel like that's what they're supposed to do. Everybody's doing it and I have to do it and blah, 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 which I know it's very important to stay educated and to learn and to increase your skills, especially during this season. But first of all, who are you? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what is it? What are the other things you need to work on? You can increase, you can learn about digital marketing, but what about, your anger issues? How are you going to deal with your anger issues? How are you going to deal with your insecurities? How are you going to deal with your, your lack of patience? You need to look at yourself, look at your character, and really, really work on it. And everything I do is from experience. I have been in a place where anger consumed me all the time. Definitely depression was very, very prevalent in my life. There were times when I was very idle, stagnant, lazy, and it just got to the point where I just said, you know what, this has got to stop. And I remember you actually introduced me to the book, Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning. That's what
Miracle Morning.
Great book. I think everybody needs that book.
Everybody needs to read that book. And that book was something that really inspired me, so when I was going through my idle and stagnation and laziness phase, I think I had lost my job at that point. I was made redundant, and I just fell into this really deep, dark hole of sadness and gloom and doom. And it looked like it was impossible to get out of it. And I remember, I don't think I shared exactly what I was feeling, but I remember talking to you at one point and you introduced me to that book. And DK, that book really, really helped me. Getting up at 5 o'clock every day and doing as much as possible not as much as possible, but the really important things between the hours of 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. really transformed my life. And from there, I began to seek ways of making sure that I never get to that point of stagnation and laziness again. And that's why I'm so passionate about actually teaching people to be disciplined rather than motivated, because I feel like being motivated is something that is seasonal. It could happen one time and it might not happen again. You might feel motivated today and then you might not feel motivated tomorrow. But when you're disciplined, it's like you have this desire that no matter what, no matter how I feel, no matter what is going on, I must do it. Mm-hmm. I think it's more severe, more like a hardcore than motivation. That's my own personal opinion. So that's how the desire to help people with their personal development came about.
Awesome. I like that, because the truth is, we could have all the resources, you could buy all the great books, you could read all the amazing books. If you do not execute it, if you are not if you are not intentional about putting your best foot forward, you're not going to succeed. You just have lovely goals, you have your vision board, you have all the tools and resources, but until you execute the plan, you're not moving forward. So I like the fact that you mentioned that discipline is key for all of us to grow. You don't just have to want it, you have to take an action, you have to be active. I mentioned that the personal development is important, but also I think taking responsibility for your actions and inactions are very vital. So that's why I like the fact that you mentioned that in the past you had to be intentional about speaking to people and not just dying in silence, and then taking what you said into consideration and getting the best out for you. So that is amazing. Olabisi said, "Oh, discipline over motivation." That's awesome. That's true, because that's one thing you mentioned: discipline over motivation. Okay, so if someone says that, "Oh, Lola, I want to get into the media industry, but I'm a bit skeptical," what would your advice be for that person?
I guess it depends on what area they want to enter. And what do they mean by skeptical? I guess, are you talking from like a sort of faith-based area, or just in general, like, oh, they feel like it's a really dark industry? Because let me just be real. Like, I honestly would advise anybody, just the main thing, whether you're a Christian or not, is just to know who you are, first of all, because you'll be surprised. You can go into the industry and you can think, oh, everybody has this, or everybody's like this, and you don't know what they've done to get to that particular position. I guess it's like that in every industry, but I do believe the industry is very, very fickle. And if one is not wise, you could end up getting yourself into debt or doing crazy things because you feel like you have to and you really don't. The key is you need to go into the industry with a strong mind, knowing who you are and exactly what you want to do. It's very easy to be very broad. Maybe you don't know if you want to be a film writer, you want to be a producer, you want to be this. So I would suggest that if you just want to be in the media but you're not really sure, you can start off as a runner. Runners are people who actually run a lot of errands, and they get to kind of speak to different people. It might seem like a demeaning job for some, but it's something that everybody has to do if you really want to get into your foot in the door. Essentially, you're going to have to start from the bottom and get to the top. And I think a lot of people are afraid of doing that as well. They just think, oh, I should just be able to enter into the industry. Again, it's nepotism. It depends on who you know and just how good you are. But if you really want to sort of learn as much as possible, you might have to go through the entry routes instead of just trying to go like straight for the kill. But I definitely feel it's an industry that is it is quite saturated. People would say, you know, you have people who just desire to be famous all the time. I would say there's more power. From my experience, there's a lot of power in front of the camera, but also more so behind the camera. So really, yeah, as producers, as executive producers, as filmmakers, as writers, there's a lot of power. You know, when you can see people in front of the screen, but I say the people behind the screens are the ones that are really pushing and making things to move. Not to say that presenters and actors are not, because of course we can see from our culture in Hollywood in general, one actor can ensure that a film sells like all across the world. So you can never power of talent. But it's also very important that you know, you kind of know that there's power also behind the camera. But if you're skeptical about the industry, don't be. Every industry has its good and bad sides. You just have to be smart and know your stuff, do your research, don't be naive. Don't think you're gonna get there overnight. There's no such thing as an overnight celebrity or overnight sensation. There is some level of work that has been put into it. So don't come into this industry thinking things should just happen like this. Yeah, just be very cool-headed and be willing to learn and know where you want to go, essentially, and get to know people who are in the field that, or in the particular position that you want to get to, and befriend them and get mentoring. If you can get mentoring from that person, or yeah.
Amazing. Okay. If we're looking at, you've talked about 2 books. I'll tell you to mention 3. I was going to ask you to recommend 5 books that you believe will help people improve. You've mentioned Devon Frank's book. You've mentioned Miracle Morning. What other 3 books or resources, even if it's podcast, have helped you become the woman you are today?
I'm currently I read this book by, I think it's Mel Robbins. Oh my gosh, I hope I've got her name right. It's called The 5-Second Rule.
Okay. Yeah.
The 5 Second. That book essentially kind of tells you about how to get up and do things. So there was a point in my life where I just used to procrastinate so much. I used to procrastinate a lot, and it was hindering my progress in many, many ways. And I really wanted to just get over this feeling of, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I want to go to the gym. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I want to learn this. I'll do it tomorrow. And I read this book by Mel Robbins, Unscribed, and it was, she mentioned a lot of stuff. But one of the things, essentially what the book is about, is saying that count to 5, do a countdown from 5, and just do whatever you have to do. So if you want to get out of bed early, but the phone is close to you and it's ringing and you're tempted to click snooze, go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and jump out of bed. And And it's so the funny thing about these motivational books is like when you really think about it, it's good advice, but it's so simple, but sometimes you need someone else to tell you. So when I was reading the book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so simple. Count down. You know, when people say, oh, if you're angry, just count to 5 and calm down. That's essentially what it is.
Okay.
So you count down from 5 to 1, and then you get up and you do what you want to do. Another book that was similar to that was Eat the Frog. And
Oh, that's a
his name just got off my...
That's a brilliant book.
Yeah. Eat the Frog.
Frog.
And I'm so bad with names, but that book also helped me as well.
Yeah.
Again, with prioritizing and managing my time and just utilizing my mornings very well. Because I do believe if your mornings aren't planned or utilized, it can really mess up the whole day.
True.
You know, if you're not intentional with your mornings. Like today, I purposely, especially during the pandemic, it's very easy to start getting up late. But today I got up, I think around 5, or was it? I got up a bit later today, and did my prayer calls and everything. And I was just happy at the fact that, yeah, okay, I felt a bit lethargic because I went to bed a bit late, but I was able to do so much more this morning. And so by the time it was like 9 o'clock, I had done pretty much most of what I wanted to do. And I was like, yes, what a great way to start the week. And you feel good. You feel good when you utilize your mornings. And another book that has helped to shape me was I think it's called The Art of Tidying Up by
Marie Kondo.
Is it Marie?
Oh,
yes.
Kondo. Yes. Oh, I watched that Netflix special. It was nice. What sparks joy and stuff like that.
Yes. I watched a bit of her Netflix series. Oh. So another fun fact about me is that I sometimes can be quite messy and like just throwing stuff all over the place. And I really wanted to work on that. So she helped me. So I read the summary of her book.
Okay.
And yes, I read the summary of her book, not the whole book. I read a summary of her book by, I think it's Entrepreneurs on Scribed. And, you know, just basically giving me really interesting facts about how I can utilize my space, you know, about touching my clothes. Do they give me joy? Do my clothes spark joy?
Joy. I'm like, it sparks joy.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading, I was like, spark joy, really? It's just clothes. But when you think about it, it's very important. You know, these clothes are what I wear. These clothes represent when I go out. And also just, I realized I can be a bit of a hoarder because I had a lot of clothes that I don't wear, that don't even fit me. And I was just holding on to them for sentimental value. And reading that book taught me how to reprogram my mind in terms of holding on to things that I no longer need, and letting go of them and putting them to a good cause, and just being clutter free and just free in my mind. So reading that book also enabled me to sort of tidy my space, and now I cannot stay anywhere that's not tidy. Like my desk has to be tidy, my bed made all the time, and it clears your mind. Honestly, it just gives you a lease of life, and it's one less thing to stress about. So now things are in the proper place, and I can find things because I remember where I put them, and they're very neat, and I'm very intentional with keeping tidy now, as before it wasn't like that. But yeah.
Awesome. You've mentioned something twice or so. Scribe. For those that don't know, what is Scribe?
Scribe is like a sorry, my braids are so itchy. For those who don't know me,
So that is okay. I could have just put up a picture of you to show them how Lola is normally.
I haven't worn braids in 10 years. This is the first, in fact, 15 years. I haven't worn braids in my hair in 15 years. I've had my hair low cut for 10 years. So this is the first time in ages that I've done braids, and it's really hurting. But yes, you asked me a question. Scribe is a online, I think Scribe is an online reading platform. It's a bit like Audible. Okay. You can read books, listen to books on there. So it's a monthly subscription service. So you pay a certain amount each month, and you get to read and listen to as many books as you want. So what I do is I download the books, and then just listen when I can. So when I'm tidying up, when I'm in the bathroom, or when I just have a spare moment, I will listen to the books, and it's really good. I used to, I think because now I'm in Nigeria, it's not as easy to get the books that I want. Normally I am a I love a hard copy. I don't like reading online or listening. I prefer to have a book in hand, but I haven't had a choice, and it's not as bad as I thought it would be. So Scribed is quite good, actually.
Awesome.
I'm learning that.
Because I was going to ask you that question because I had a few would you rather questions, but you started answering them, so I'll just ask you the remaining questions I had. Because one of the questions was hard copy or soft copy, and you said you prefer an hard copy. So do you prefer listening to audible books or reading books? Which do you prefer?
Funny story, I love listening and reading at the
Me
same
too.
time. So I love that.
I'm listening. I'm like, what's the use? But then I still do it.
I love reading.
Okay, so do you prefer being a voiceover artist because you're a voiceover artist, or do you prefer being in front of the camera? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, I love being in front of the camera.
Oh, really?
I love being in front of the camera. I think it just brings the adrenaline that you get from both of them are good. I enjoy both of them, but the adrenaline you get from being in front of the camera is incredible. Like, especially if you're given free reign, like if it's your own show or if you have control to some extent, you can just be yourself. You can just like, it's amazing. But the thing about TV is you have to exaggerate to some extent.
Yeah.
Especially being an introvert, a very exhausting process because I had to give more energy than expected, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of voice thing, it's good, but not as good as presenting.
All right. So, will you rather present for a live show or a pre-recorded show?
That's a really interesting question. I've done both.
Yes.
I can't. The adrenaline for live shows is a lot. It is very scary, but if you're doing what you love, you would enjoy the live shows more, I think, because it's just like the adrenaline will just make you be on the ball, and you just, it's like a game. Mentally tell yourself, oh, don't mess up. Let's see how long you can go without messing up. That's what I used to do when I was doing live shows. Safety net, and it's helpful to know that you can edit it and stuff. Mm-hmm. But if I had to pick one, I would pre-records actually.
So, would you rather host a webinar or speak in front of an audience? So, host a webinar or go live on Instagram or speak in front of an audience?
Again, it's the adrenaline when you're speaking in front of people. You just get that rush.
You bounce off their energy, their reactions, and everything. It's amazing. But a webinar is like, as an introvert, you are in your own space.
Yeah.
So they're both amazing. So you're in your own space. So which one would you rather have? The energy or in your own space?
I think the energy will encourage me to kind of give all. If I'm in my own space, I could just the energy will probably dwindle, and I wouldn't even be aware of it. But if I'm on a live audience, I'm going to be kept on my toes. So I'll probably do live.
Okay. Let's this picture. If I was to give, if I offer you these two options, would you rather have, and everyone can answer this last question, would you rather have £1 million now or 10,000 monthly for the rest of your life? And why? I want to know what every other person says. So for those that are listening on YouTube, let me know what you rather have. £10 million now. What about allowing the Latin can brew on that subject? Or £10,000 for the rest of your life every month?
Do you know what? I would say, don't know what tomorrow brings, right? You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen in 2 years' time. God forbid, we want to live long, we want to have a good life. But in all honesty, you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, I probably would take the 1 million, and I'll make sure what I have to do to definitely double that. But I'll do that on the premise of you just don't know what could happen tomorrow.
Okay.
You just don't know. That's. But if I had complete assurance, and as a Christian, I do, whether I'm here or in heaven, I know God's got me.
Yes.
But I would, off the premise of not knowing, I would just say, let me take the 1 million.
Take the 1 million. Why don't you want the 10,000 monthly? That is guaranteed. You're getting that 10,000 monthly. Why won't you take that? Especially if you don't have any debt and anything.
To be honest, I'm just saying this answer off the whim. Like, when I think about it, I might know what the 10,000, because to be honest, the 10,000 makes sense. It does. It does. But I think from past experience, maybe I'm going too deep and too philosophical into it, but from past experience, I've always said that, I've always had the school of thought that, we just don't know what tomorrow will bring. We pray that will be good. We don't hope for anything bad. But off that premise, I would have said 1 million. But realistically, the £10,000 a year would be sweet.
£10,000 a month.
A month? Oh,
yes.
I didn't hear you properly.
No, £10,000 a month. Every month you get the £10,000. Madu says £10,000 for the rest of my life every month.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you said.
Oh, no, £10,000 a month, every month for the rest of your life. Oh, girl, and you don't have any debts, you don't have any bills, your student loans, everything has been paid. You're just getting 10,000 monthly.
Oh, then 10,000 a month. Oh, God. I'm sorry, I really thought I heard 10,000 a year, so that's why I was going on that little spiel. But 10,000 a month, definitely. Absolutely.
Because you're sure income is coming, no matter what. You're sure that it's going to come. If you're prudent, you can save it. But if you have an investment that you need $1 million for, and you're sure it will increase, then that's a risk you can take. But the thing with that million, if you take it and then you invest and everything just goes nuts, you're like, okay, I should have something else is coming. Or you take the 1 million, save some, ensure that you're getting 10,000 every month, and then invest the rest in something. But it's really, really great. Okay, so now your new show. Tell us about your new show. A bit more about your new show that you're working on for YouTube, so that everyone knows where to reach you.
Yay! God is so good. Like, there are times when I've just been writing a lot, especially during this pandemic. There's a book that I'm currently in the process of writing, which is about, funny enough, it's completely different to a lot of things that I've been writing about. But the book I'm currently writing is about purity, and about how purity is seen, sexual purity, what it means in this day and age, how people view it, the ideologies people have towards sex and virginity, and just it's a book to encourage Christian men and women who are looking to remain pure in a world that is literally somehow forcing them to not remain pure, and the joys of remaining pure, but also the cons of remaining pure. And when I say cons, I mean sometimes people who are virgins, for example, they develop, not everyone, but some who are Christians and virgins develop this mindset that they are perhaps better than their friends or better than people who aren't. And that's not the case. And some people keep their virginity for particular reasons, and not necessarily the right reasons, and just kind of getting over, this whole religious mindset towards sex, towards virginity, towards purity. It's a demystifying book, essentially. I want it to demystify a lot of things about virgins, pretty much. So that's the book that I'm currently
fascinating. Right. And I think it's an area that so many the church does not really go into when it comes to sexual purity. There's just the notion that it's not a topic that should be addressed. It's something that should be known. But communicating about it, I believe, will help not just the women, because it puts pressure more on the women than on the men. So if I'm looking at it, how it influences both parties, it's a great way to look at it.
Exactly. That's one thing I'm working on. And then as I was working on that book, I just had this sort of like epiphany, and 2 words came to my mind called break free. Okay. And I was break free. And I remember I called up, my friend called me up, and she was telling me about a situation she was going through. and I was, no, it was a guy actually. He was telling me about a situation he was going through, and I remember just saying to him, "You got to break free from that." And it hit me again that, oh, I need to do a series about how to break free from certain strongholds, certain habits that we have acquired, or certain mindsets that we have just developed over time that are hindering our progress, essentially. And I'm just going to talk about my experience. So it's just going to be a YouTube series. I kind of have a list of topics I want to talk about, from being single to depression to weight gain. It's going to be a range of things, but each one of the things I'm going to talk about is I have personally experienced and how I have dealt. It's not going to all be about me, but I think the good thing about it is that I'm talking from a place of experience, which I believe will resonate with my audience. So yeah, it's going to be motivational, encouraging, hopefully enlightening and inspirational as well. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, I am excited about this series. Yeah, I've been on you to get on YouTube again because your videos are always inspiring. I believe that there is so much that you have to give to the world, and you keep hiding. I think the first video we did was talking about uncertainties, where we were both dealing with uncertainties in 2016 or 17, and now to see how you have been transformed, it's such a beautiful sight to behold. I'm really, really proud of the woman you've become, Lola. Is there any other thing you think I should have asked you that I did not ask? Is there any other thing you want to say before we bring this to an end?
Really, I think you touched on a lot of topics. I would just say, if you're an introvert, um, be really proud of who you are. There's enough. One thing that someone said to me is that, you see the birds in the sky, they don't hit each other when they're flying. That means there's enough space in the sky for them. So there's enough space for everyone. There's a space for extroverts, there's a space for introverts, there's a space for this person, for that person. You just got to find your space. And I think it's very important to kind of know how to be content. It's good to be ambitious. It's good to want to do your best and get everything you want, everything you can. But what is the driving force behind that? You have to know your why, essentially. It's very important, even if not even just in the media, but just in life in general. It's very important to know why you're doing what you're doing. Who are you doing it for? Is it for yourself, or is it for other people? Because I'm really interested in people being content and happy with who they are, as opposed to constantly finding faults and trying to be something that they're not. It sounds so simple, but you'll be so surprised the amount of people I know who are not completely happy, who are not joyful. And it's really sad, because some of them work in the media, and I feel like that feeling is exemplified by working in the media because of the type of images that they're bombarded with, or the mentality that you have to survive the media. Yeah. So anybody who wants to get into this industry, it's not as bad. I know people are thinking, oh, she's saying this, she's saying that. It's lovely. You will have amazing experiences, like especially in Africa, because I'm currently in Nigeria right now. And of course, I was born and raised in the UK, but the Nigerian entertainment scene, the Nigerian African entertainment scene, I've done so many things here that I would never probably have done in London, because the opportunities here are so much closer to hand. But at the same time, being here, I've had to learn how to discipline myself to not go crazy, and to just stay within the realms of my sanity, and to not be someone that I'm not for the sake of a job. So it's very important that you know who you are. Identity, know who you are, essentially.
Awesome, I love that. Just to echo what Lola said, know who you are. Understanding your identity is something that I'm equally passionate about, because when you know why you believe what you believe, no one can easily push you left or right. You'll be able to stand firm on what you believe. So in whatever industry you're going to work in, whatever you choose to do, I think we're both encouraging you to embrace who you are. If you're a Christian, embrace who God has called you to be. See yourself the way God sees you. That's the best thing you can ever do to yourself. No compromising, no matter what every other person is doing. And as introverts, we need to embrace our silent power. That's what I call it. The silent power of the introverts. We are deep thinkers, we are philosophers, we are people that are transforming the world. just the way we've accepted that extroverts are different from us, we also need to accept ourselves. So I want to say thank you to Lola for joining me on today's episode of the Introvert's Guide to Content Creation. Lola, where can people reach you? Can you please share your social media profiles?
Thank you so much for having me, DK. I had an amazing time.
I did so.
Okay, so you can reach me on Instagram. I'm at Lola, Lola_Ebony, EBONY. So at Lola_Ebony. That's the same handle for Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, which is Lola Ogunbadejo. People always pounce on me for how I pronounce my name. But it's Lola space OGUNBADEJO. And then I have a YouTube channel called Just Lola. It's a bit empty at the moment, but from the 1st of July, that's when I'm going to be starting my breakthrough series. So you can go there and subscribe, and it's literally an icon of me with my short hair, and I'm in like a red and green dress kind of thing. So you can follow me there. But Instagram is where I am most times.
Okay, so please follow Lola on all our platforms as she has mentioned. Lola_Ebony on Instagram and Twitter. Lola Ogunbadejo on Facebook and on YouTube. Please subscribe to Lola's channel so you get the notification when she launches on the 1st of July. It's just a couple of days away. We're excited to see what the Lord will do to you and through you as you speak to all of us. Thank you once more for coming on today's show, and thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, don't forget you can send your questions to dkjonah@gmail.com, and connect with me on Instagram. Let's keep the conversation flowing. How can we as introverts accept who we are to ensure we are thriving in an extroverted world? Do we need to change, or do we need to be ourselves? My next guest will be discussing this very, very topic with me. And till then, I'd like to say bye, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on a Monday evening. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.